On sunny Southampton's Voice FM, that was Son of Southampton, Craig David, with his latest single, Rain. If you have just joined us, a very good morning to you. My name's Xan. This is your Green Breakfast. And we're going to focus now on a story that's on our website. It's a story that you might have seen across the weekend, but Southampton is in the top 10 for growth. This is thanks to PwC's annual Good Growth for Cities Index. It places Southampton 7th out of 50 cities across the UK for growth, exceeding the index's score for the Southeast as a whole. And here to celebrate this good news is Councillor Bogle, who is a cabinet member for economic development, growth and skills. Good morning, Councillor Bogle. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine, thank you very much.
Excellent. And good news. Have you been celebrating all weekend?
No, I'm really pleased about this achievement. It's a real testament to it's a great city that's doing well despite some some challenging conditions. So I'm really pleased that we've managed to sustain a really good performance in this index.
So let's take out some good news then. Out of the report in general, what were the highlights for you?
Well, the report has a series of sort of areas it covers, from skills to transport to income to jobs. Some of the real highlights are the creation of new businesses. That's a really positive, that people are still making that leap and creating their businesses, and we've got quite a flourishing small business sector, probably about 7,000 small businesses in the city, which is pretty amazing. Micro businesses. People keep giving it a go, so that's very encouraging. There's been some good progress overall on jobs as well, and skills. We're scoring very well on transport, which is interesting. We've had massive uptick in our use of bus transport, which is actually very good for the economy, because a lot of people haven't got access to a car, and getting around and reasonably cheaply is actually quite an attractive aspect of the city. There's lots of different areas. The environment score is quite good, and I think that overall there's a lot of areas, skills as well as improved, and so I'm really sort of positive about some of the developments that have happened and how people are investing in the city and investing themselves as well.
And as far as the well, I mean, that's obviously great that we've there's some good things going on. 7,000 small businesses as well. That's a fairly large amount. It's more than I would have expected, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Does this when they talk about, I mean, the fact that we're 7th, that feels like there can't be much negative news. But is there anything within there you say you can see that's where Southampton's got to do a little bit better?
I mean, look, I think like most of the areas in the south and southeast, housing and the building of new housing and affordable housing and getting access to housing people can afford is a real issue for us, and we know that, and we're trying to do something about it, but it's a really challenging one to deliver quickly on. So that's an area where, if you look at all the sort of it's a red, amber, green type look at everything, that's the one of the areas that's in the red. And we've got this in common with Portsmouth and many other places that with them, but it doesn't mean we don't want to do something about it. Another area is income distribution, which basically means, like, one of the things we're looking at is how do we get people who live in the city to earn as much as people who come out from outside and work in the city. So a lot of people make money in Southampton, but not everyone does that lives here. And so what I'm really keen to see is a much smaller gap between the wages earned on average by someone who lives here versus people who live outside. At the moment, there is a gap. We monitor it, and we're trying to get it down. Basically.
That's very interesting. Some people might not actually realise that. And is there, in your assessment so far, have you seen a particular cause for
that? It's complex. I mean, we've got some issues around education levels and so that means you don't get such higher paid jobs if we've still got some skills gaps. We still have quite a lot of people who are not in work. We do as a city have quite significant, deprivation still, which is a really big challenge. So there's lots of barriers to work for people, which again, we've got very good services to overcome that, but it's not easy. And there's quite a lot of people who are not getting into employment, or if they are in employment, maybe not earning as much or getting the opportunities that they could. And for a huge variety of reasons, it could be caring responsibilities, could be health issues. We do have a lot of issues with sort of what they call in the term health inequalities, but we've got a lot of quite a lot of people who are not, you know, struggling to get into work because of health issues. So it's complex, you know, and also it's partly to do with housing mix as well. So, you know, where do people who are better off, where do they, you know, there's maybe not quite enough of, you know, a mixture of housing in the city, so people live outside the city. But, you know, we want to make sure we actually develop the city as well to make it attractive for everyone. So that's the challenge really, is to make sure everyone benefits from the growth. So it's not just you know, just a certain percentage, it's everyone gets the benefit, and that's really what good growth is all about, I guess. You know, it's actually, you know, shared shared prosperity, I think is the term. Yeah.
Yeah, and trying to keep the wealth within the city as well. Because
Yeah, trying to keep the wealth local. You know, we do a lot as a council on this in terms of trying to encourage local spend, and we ourselves have got, you know, our spending. I call it Southampton pound, but we try to use our spending power to actually make it easier for small business to access our contracts. We've changed our policies, so we're sort of almost like I have a Southampton first, or a sort of let's try and buy local where we can. It's not always possible, but there's quite a lot of areas where you can go, well, actually, if I do that, that will help everyone and help local businesses thrive. And then also we try to encourage the whole sort of buy local thing on the high street type stuff, or try and encourage, you know, people to lift up the lowest wages, because people will spend more in the local economy if they've got just a bit more in their pocket. You know, it's lots of little things that we as a council can do so much. We're not all powerful, but every business and every organisation can also do their bit. So it's trying to get that sort of approach. And I think, to be fair, there's a lot of businesses who do really care about the city and are giving back, and, for example, you know, employing apprenticeships, that sort of thing, you know, trying to get young people a better chance in life as well. So that's another thing we're trying to really push, you know, try to help where we can, you know, because we know that's a complicated system. So we do have an option for small business to access free help with apprenticeships, because some big companies don't always spend all their levy, as it's called. It gets a complicated system, and we've got something where it gets transferred across. So we've got all sorts of things we're trying to get, you know, to help business and to help the city thrive, really.
that sounds very good. But then a question I would sort of traditionally ask is that if we're seeing growth, therefore there's certain areas
Yeah.
we're seeing growth, and therefore young people should aim for that. So that's the first question I've got for you on that respect. Where, if you were, let's say, between 15 and 20, where would you set your sights right now?
In terms of what, sorry?
In some job opportunities within Southampton.
Well, I think
where is the growth?
I think for me, I'm really interested in trying to see if we can attract much more of the higher paid jobs and the high skilled jobs. We need some significant employers to sort of get them into the city. So some of that is, you know, or we need some existing employers to expand and invest. And to be fair, some of them are. So there's a bit of, in terms of, I can't measure up a number. It's more to do with, ideally I would like to get wages at, you know, to the southeast average. That's a sort of target, I suppose, and narrow that gap, which I talked about earlier, in terms of people who live here. I'd like more of a percentage of the jobs around to be higher paid jobs, because at the moment we've still got quite a large amount of what I call minimum wage stuff, which is necessary. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of jobs that unfortunately are at that level, but we need a mix. And we need a bit, you know, we need to attract different types of employment to the city. And that requires also, also links to the built environment, and, you know, what sort of offices are available, what sort of, you know, it's lots of different things that come into that. But I think we're in a good location, we're accessible, we've got good transport links, you know, so we've got you know, an airport, we've got lots of things on our doorstep. So I think that's partly why we're doing fairly well, despite all the, you know, understood headwinds in terms of the economy and the sort of fairly uncertain environment we're operating in.
So final question then, what does Southampton need to do to go further up the table? We're 7th at the moment. Yeah. How do we need to get up, let's say, to 6th or to 5th?
I think, as I said earlier, one of the areas we're lagging behind is on housing. So we're not delivering enough on that. Another area is I think reducing, tackling further, you know, sense of personal safety, because there's some issues around crime and antisocial behaviour which need to be addressed. That's not in my brief, obviously, but these things have an impact on how people perceive a place. And we know that we've had issues and we continue to have issues in certain parts of the city, you know, whether it's sort of London Road area or whether it's Shirley High Street, or, you know, we've got certain areas where we know that this has affected our economy. So it does have an effect. We do need to address, you know, leveling, you know, we don't use the term leveling up anymore, but the issues around skills in education. The more people have better skills and better education, the more likely they're going to succeed and have a better life, in better health, actually, and everything. So we need to continue to encourage people to go take those opportunities, and we need to make it easy for those opportunities to be grabbed. So it's a lot of it is about people and about how they feel about their place, and then being confident about our place, and attracting also people to invest from outside, as well as get our partners to invest. And we're doing that bit, we're doing very well. So, you know, I think we just want to do more of that, whether it's the port, the universities, the football club, the NHS. These big organisations are actually investing quite heavily in the city. So, you know, it's like a vote of confidence, and we want to build on that and get lots of other people interested in the city.
Well, it sounds very exciting. There's work to be done, but at the same time, we must celebrate the fact that Southampton is 7th in this growth index. And thank you so much, Councillor Bogle, Cabinet Member for Economic Development, Growth and Skills, for taking time this morning to talk us more about it. It's very kind of you to be here.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.